that you probably had an awakening. That's what it sounds like to me. That's what I call awakening or kensho. The actual quote unquote event of it can, especially afterward, you can kind of, I don't know how to say it, but you sort of forget the dramatic contrast that was that actual event from the moment before, because of where you find yourself. You just find yourself in this sort of presence, which is so wonderful. And it doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how you got, you realize there's no getting here. It's just here, right? It's that primarily obvious, natural, simple, you didn't do it, you're not causing it, and you don't have to maintain it, kind of thing. Yeah. It's just how, what reality is, let's say. So I would call that like probably a Kensho awakening without going into too much detail. It doesn't actually matter what it was, but that's probably what it was. Um, um, and what happened after, that's the honeymoon period. And what happened after the honeymoon period is also extremely common. And you can hear it ahead of time. Like before someone's had an awakening, they can hear when we talk about the post awakening, shadow work and all that. And you hear it and it almost sounds like, it can be almost like romanticized, like, oh, I can't wait to do that. It's like, no, it's not really something you want to look forward to, but it's a necessary part of the process, and you just have to go through it, right? And by definition, at first at least, there's going to be a lot of resistance. And I say by definition, I mean the reason you didn't feel the anger before, the reason you didn't feel the fear before, wasn't because it wasn't there. Is your instinct tell you that's true? It's not like you never had fear somewhere in your experience, in your body, and your body, mind, and your processing. It just was sort of numbed up by, or not, there's a numbness that comes with mind identification that's surprisingly effective in a certain sense, right? And in a way, in an extreme version of it, that's how we can actually cause violence, right? Because we can become numb to even how we affect others and all of it. So it's like a double-edged sword. After awakening, you get to the point where you can't ignore things anymore. You can't ignore fear, you can't ignore anger, you can't ignore resistance, you can't ignore shame. Like, this stuff starts coming to the surface, right? So in my book I have the little section called When the Other Shoe Drops. And anytime you have a sort of plunge into presence in whatever form that is, it's followed by a lot of repressed material coming to the surface. That's, to put it simply. Now, after awakening and after a honeymoon period, it's a huge version of that. Everything starts coming to the surface, and you realize there's really no filtering. You can maybe distract yourself here and there a little bit, and you have to go through that. But generally speaking, you just know instinctually, like, this stuff's coming.